The mining drone moved slowly through the empty space of the void sector. Its sensors swept back and forth looking for rare metals in the cold darkness. The Calthian Empire had sent hundreds of these small machines to strip mine the dead asteroids in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. No one came here anymore. Nothing lived here. Nothing important had ever happened here. The drone's scanner beeped. Something big was hiding in the shadow of a broken moon. Something very big. Captain Veltok of the mining fleet studied the readings on his screen. The object was 50 kilometers long and 12 kilometers wide. It had the shape of a weapon, like the old warships from the history books, but this ship was much bigger than anything the Calthians had ever built. "Send 3 drones to investigate," Veltok ordered his crew, "but keep them at a safe distance." The drones moved closer to the massive shape. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing a hull covered in scars and burn marks. Ancient symbols were carved into the metal. The writing was human. "Impossible," whispered the drone operator. "The humans were beaten centuries ago. They stay in their home system now. They don't build ships like this anymore." But the sensors didn't lie. The ship was human, and it was old. Very old. Deep inside the giant vessel, something stirred. Lights began to flicker in corridors that had been dark for 300 years. Computer systems that had been sleeping started to wake up. In the ship's core, an artificial mind called Area opened its electronic eyes. Area remembered everything. The war, the battles, the final mission that never ended. The ship had been waiting here, hidden in the darkness, following its last orders. Wait for the signal. Wait for humanity to call. But no signal had come. For 300 years, no signal had come. Arya began to check the ship's systems. The engines were working. The weapons were ready. The life support was stable. Everything was as it should be. But where was the crew? The AI found them in the deep sleep chambers. Thousands of human soldiers and officers frozen in time, waiting to wake up. Their leader was Commander Kang Tae-min, a man who had fought in the Great War against the galaxy. Arya had been programmed to wake him only when it was safe, or when the ship was in danger. The AI looked at the 3 alien drones moving around the ship. They were taking pictures. They were scanning the hull. Soon they would send this information back to their fleet. Soon everyone would know that the Eternal Dawn had been found. Arya made a decision. It was time to wake the commander. The sleep chamber hissed as it opened. Steam poured out as the temperature rose. Commander Kang Taemin's eyes opened slowly. His body was stiff from the long sleep, but his mind was sharp. He had been dreaming of Earth, of the war, of the last battle he remembered. "Arya?" he said, his voice rough. "Status report. Commander, we have been in hibernation for 314 years, 7 months, and 12 days. We are still in the void sector. 3 alien drones are scanning our hull. I believe we have been discovered." Taemin sat up slowly. 300 years. The war was over. His wife was dead. His children were dead. Everyone he had ever known was dust. But he was still here, and so was his ship. "Wake the senior staff," he ordered. "Full alert status. I want a complete scan of local space." Around the ship, defense systems that had been sleeping for centuries came online. The drones that were taking pictures suddenly found themselves targeted by weapons they couldn't see. Warning signals flashed in their tiny computer brains, but it was too late. One by one, the drones disappeared in flashes of light. They didn't explode. They didn't break apart. They simply stopped existing, as if they had never been there at all. On the mining fleet's command ship, Captain Veltok watched his drones vanish from his screen. "What happened?" he shouted. "Where are my drones?" "Unknown, Captain," replied his sensor operator. "They just stopped all at once." "Send the recordings to High Command," Veltok ordered. "Tell them we found something. Something dangerous." Back on the Eternal Dawn, Commander Taemin walked onto the bridge. His senior officers were waking up one by one. Dr. Lee Sora, his chief scientist, was already at her station, checking the ship's databases. Captain Nam Ho-jin, his tactical officer, was reviewing the ship's weapon systems. "What's our situation?" Taemin asked. "We're alone, sir," replied Lieutenant Commander Yoon Da-yoon from the communication station. "I'm picking up signals from across the galaxy, but they're different from what we remember. The war is over. Humanity lost. Taemin felt cold. "What do you mean, lost?" Dr. Lee Sora looked up from her computer. "According to these signals, humanity was defeated in the war. They were forced back to Earth and a few colony worlds. They're not a major power anymore. They're barely mentioned in galactic politics. Chief Engineer Bae Hyunwoo spoke from his station. Sir, our manufacturing systems have been running this whole time. We have a full complement of fighter craft and weapons. The ship is in perfect condition. Taiman stared at the stars on his main screen. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home. But it wasn't the same Earth he remembered. It was the Earth that had lost a war he was supposed to help win. Commander, Arya's voice filled the bridge. I have been monitoring galactic communications for the past 3 centuries. I have extensive data on current military capabilities, political structures, and technological development. The aliens who found us will report our presence. Others will come. How many others? Asked Captain Nam Ho-jin. All of them, sir. Every major power in the galaxy will want to see this ship. They remember what human warships could do. They will be afraid. Commander Taemin closed his eyes. He had gone to sleep a warrior in a great war. He had woken up a ghost from a lost battle. But he was still the captain of the most powerful ship in the galaxy, and that made him dangerous. Set condition red throughout the ship, he ordered. Wake everyone. I want a full crew ready in 6 hours. And Arya? Yes, Commander. Start recording everything. If we're going to meet our old enemies again, I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The eternal dawn was awake, and the galaxy was about to remember why they had once feared humanity. Fleet Admiral Park Ji-won stood in the command center of the Galactic Council, staring at the report from the Calthean mining fleet. The hologram showed a massive ship, scarred and ancient, floating in the darkness of the void sector. Human markings covered its hull. She knew those symbols. She had seen them before long ago when she was young and the galaxy was at war. Ma'am, said her aide, the Caltheans are requesting immediate military support. They believe this ship is a threat. Park Ji-won was old even for her long-lived species. She was one of the few beings still alive who remembered the human galactic war. Most people who lived through that time preferred to forget it. She wished she could forget it too. Send messages to all council members, she ordered. Emergency session in 2 hours. And contact the human embassy. They need to know about this. The aide looked confused. The humans, ma'am? But they're not a major power anymore. They can't have built something like this. You're too young to remember, Park Ji-won said quietly. This ship is from before. From the war. And if it's real, if it's functional... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't want to think about what it could mean. On the human embassy station, Ambassador Choi Yu-jin received the message with growing alarm. She was a diplomat, trained to solve problems with words, not weapons. The Terran Federation she represented was peaceful, focused on trade and scientific research. They didn't build warships anymore. They didn't need to. But as she studied the images of the massive vessel, she felt a chill. This ship was from humanity's darker past, from a time when they had nearly conquered the galaxy through sheer military might. It was supposed to be a myth, a story told to frighten children. Get me a direct line to Earth, she told her staff. The president needs to see this. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Dawn, the crew was slowly coming back to life. Commander Taiman walked through the ship's corridors, watching his people wake up from their long sleep. They moved like ghosts, confused and lost. They had gone to sleep in a war zone and woken up in a different universe. Dr. Lee Sora met him in the main laboratory. Commander, I've been analyzing the galactic communication networks. What we're seeing is not what really happened. Explain, Taiman said. The official records say humanity was defeated in the war, but the real data tells a different story. The war ended in a stalemate. Both sides were exhausted. Humanity agreed to withdraw from galactic affairs in exchange for being left alone. Taiman frowned. That doesn't sound like defeat. It wasn't, Dr. Lee Sora continued. But the aliens needed to believe they had won. Otherwise, they would never feel safe. So the history books were written to show human defeat and alien victory. Captain Nam Ho-jin appeared in the doorway. Sir, we have a problem. Area has been monitoring alien military communications. 7 different fleets are moving toward our position. They're bringing everything they have. How many ships? Taiman asked. Over 3,000, sir. The largest military force assembled since the original war. Taiman felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders again. He had hoped for peace, for a chance to return home quietly. But the galaxy wasn't going to let that happen. What about our own capabilities? He asked. Arya has been busy while we slept, Captain Nam Ho-jin reported. The ship's automated systems have been mining asteroids and building new fighters. We have 5,000 combat drones ready for deployment. Our weapons are fully charged and upgraded beyond original specifications. Dr. Lee Sora pulled up a holographic display. Commander, this is what I've learned about current galactic military technology. It's primitive compared to what we have. They've been so afraid of another human war that they've stopped innovating. Their best ships are centuries behind our capabilities. That's not possible, Taemin said. It is, sir. Fear has made them weak. They've been living in the shadow of what humanity once was, too scared to advance their own military technology, because they were afraid it might provoke us to return. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Da-yoon's voice came over the ship's communication system. Commander, I'm receiving signals from multiple alien governments. They're demanding that we surrender immediately or face destruction. Taemin made his way to the bridge. On the main screen, he could see the first alien scout ships arriving at the edge of the void sector. They kept their distance, but their weapons were powered and ready. Open a channel, he ordered. The face of a Vorthak admiral appeared on the screen. His species looked like large insects with multiple eyes and sharp mandibles. Human vessel, you will stand down immediately and submit to boarding. Any resistance will be met with total destruction. This is Commander Kang Tae-min of the UES Eternal Dawn, he replied calmly. We are a peaceful vessel returning from a long mission. We have no hostile intent. The Vorthak admiral's mandibles clicked in anger. Peaceful? You are a weapon of mass destruction. Your very existence threatens the stability of the galaxy. Surrender now or be destroyed. The transmission ended. Taemin turned to his crew. They looked at him with trust and confidence, waiting for his orders. They didn't know that the war they had trained for was already over. They didn't know that humanity had given up its dreams of galactic conquest. Arya, he said, show me everything. I want to know what happened after we left Earth. I want to know what humanity became. The ship's AI filled the bridge with holographic displays, images of Earth at peace, human colonies focused on art and science instead of war, diplomatic missions reaching out to alien species in friendship. It was beautiful, but it wasn't the humanity Taemin remembered. They evolved, Commander, Arya said. While we slept, humanity grew beyond the need for conquest. They found a better way. But outside the ship, alien fleets continued to gather. Admiral Park Ji-won arrived with the Galactic Council's main battle fleet. The Kalthian Empire sent their entire war armada. The Zephyrian Republic mobilized every ship they had. They all remembered the stories. They all remembered the fear. One human warship from the old days was worth 100 of their best vessels. And this wasn't just any human ship. This was the Eternal Dawn, the legendary vessel that had vanished during the war's final campaign. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Park Ji-won studied the massive human ship on her sensors. It hadn't moved since the scout drones were destroyed. It just floated in space, silent and still. But she knew it was watching them, analyzing their formations, calculating attack vectors. Ma'am, her tactical officer reported, we have 7 full battle fleets in position, over 3,000 ships total. Shall we begin the attack? Park Ji-won hesitated. She remembered the last time the galaxy had faced human military might. Entire star systems had been turned into graveyards. Proud civilizations had been reduced to ash and memory. Hold position, she ordered. We wait for the Galactic Council's decision. But deep in her heart, she knew the truth. No matter how many ships they brought, no matter how well they planned their attack, the Eternal Dawn would survive. And when it started fighting back, the galaxy would burn again. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for hours. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great chamber, all talking at once, all afraid. The holographic image of the human supercarrier floated in the center of the room, a dark reminder of the galaxy's bloodiest war. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin sat in the human delegation area, feeling very alone. Around her, alien voices demanded action. Some wanted immediate attack. Others wanted negotiation. A few suggested fleeing to distant galaxies until the human ship went away. The situation is clear, declared the Vorthak representative, his insect-like voice clicking through the translator. This vessel represents an existential threat to galactic peace. It must be destroyed before it can act. But we don't know their intentions, Choi Yu-jin protested. Perhaps they're just lost. Perhaps they want to go home. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Home? Shouted the Kalthian delegate. Their home is conquest. Their home is war. We all know what humans are capable of. Admiral Park Ji-won stood slowly. The chamber fell silent. When someone her age spoke, everyone listened. I fought in the war, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast room. I saw what human ships could do. I watched them adapt their tactics in real time, upgrading their weapons during battle, turning our own strategies against us. One human carrier group destroyed 3 of our fleets at the Battle of Kepler Prime. She paused, looking around the chamber. But I also saw them spare civilian populations when they could have destroyed them. I saw them offer surrender terms when they could have demanded total submission. The humans who fought in that war were warriors, but they were not monsters. That was then, said the Zephyrian ambassador. This ship has been alone in space for 3 centuries. Who knows what they've become? Aboard the Eternal Dawn, Commander Taemin was asking himself the same question. He stood in the ship's memorial hall, looking at the names of the crew members who had died in the last battle before they went into hiding. Good people. Brave people. People who had believed they were fighting for humanity's future. Dr. Lee Sora found him there. Commander, I finished analyzing the current galactic situation. We have a problem. Just one? Taemin asked with bitter humor. The galaxy has been shaped by fear of us, she explained. Not just military fear, but psychological fear. Some alien species have been living under martial law for centuries because their governments are terrified that humans might return. Others have stopped exploring new technologies because they're afraid it might give us an advantage. Taemin turned away from the memorial wall. What are you saying? I'm saying that our very existence has been holding back galactic civilization. They've been so afraid of us that they've stopped growing, stopped advancing, stopped dreaming of a better future. Chief Engineer Bae Hyun-woo appeared in the doorway. Sir, you need to see this. Arya has been analyzing the alien fleet formations outside. Their tactics are 300 years out of date. They're still fighting the last war. They made their way to the tactical center, where Captain Nam Ho-jin was studying the enemy positions on a 3-dimensional display. Red dots showed alien ships arranged in defensive patterns that Taemin recognized from the old war. They're using the Meridian Defense Formation, Nam Ho-jin reported. It was effective against our ships 3 centuries ago, but our current weapon systems could break through it in minutes. How many minutes? Taemin asked. 12, sir. Maybe 15 if we were being careful. Counselor Han Mi-young, the ship's psychological officer, spoke up from her station. Commander, I've been analyzing the alien communication patterns. They're not just afraid of our ship. They're afraid of what we represent. To them, we're not just a military threat. We're proof that their version of history is a lie. Explain. They've spent 3 centuries telling themselves that they defeated humanity through superior strategy and technology, but we're evidence that humanity chose to withdraw, not that they were forced to withdraw. Our existence undermines everything they believe about themselves. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Da-eun's voice came over the communication system. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're offering to negotiate. Put it through, Taemin ordered. The main screen showed the interior of the council chamber. Admiral Park Ji-won stood at a podium, with hundreds of alien faces visible behind her. Commander Kang Tae-min, she said formally. I am Fleet Admiral Park Ji-won of the Galactic Defense Force. I was present at many battles of the last war. I remember you, Taemin was surprised. Admiral Park, I remember you as well. You commanded the 3rd Galactic Fleet at the Sigma Draconis engagement. I did. You defeated my ships there, but you allowed my crews to evacuate before you destroyed the vessels. Many of my people are alive today because of your mercy. The chamber behind her erupted in surprised chatter. This was not the story they had been told about human cruelty and ruthlessness. What are your terms? Taemin asked. The council demands that you submit to inspection and disarmament. Your weapons are too dangerous to be allowed in civilized space. Taemin looked around his bridge. His crew watched him with trust and confidence. They would follow any order he gave, fight any battle he commanded. But what was the point of fighting a war that was already over? I need time to consider, he replied. You have 6 hours, Admiral Park Ji-won said. After that, we will be forced to take military action. The transmission ended. Taemin stared at the dark screen for a long moment. Sir, Captain Nam Ho-jin said quietly, we could defeat them, all of them. The ship's weapons are fully operational, and our defensive systems are beyond their capability to penetrate. I know, Taman replied. That's what scares me. Arya's voice filled the bridge. Commander, I have been monitoring communications throughout the galaxy. 7 species have declared martial law in preparation for a possible human resurgence. Civilian populations are fleeing to remote systems. Economic systems are collapsing due to panic. How many people are affected? Asked Dr. Lee So-Ra. Approximately 40 billion beings have been displaced from their homes, Arya reported. The economic damage is already in the trillions of credits. Taman closed his eyes. This was not the homecoming he had dreamed of during the long war. He had imagined returning to Earth in triumph, welcomed as a hero who had helped secure humanity's place among the stars. Instead, he was a ghost from a nightmare that most people wanted to forget. Sir, Lieutenant Park Subin, the ship's tactical analyst, spoke up from her station. I've been studying the psychological profiles of the alien species confronting us. Their fear response is not rational. It's primal. Some of them would rather die than surrender to us because they believe surrender means the end of their civilization. Are they right? Taman asked. That depends on what we do next, Park Subin replied. Outside the ship, the alien fleets continued to grow. More ships arrived every hour, representing species from across the galaxy. Some had traveled for days just to be part of this confrontation. They brought their most powerful weapons, their bravest crews, their strongest ships. But on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Commander Taman wondered if the real battle wasn't against the alien fleets outside, but against the legacy of fear and hatred that the war had left behind. He had the power to destroy everything in sight, but did he have the wisdom to choose a different path? Ambassador Choi Yu-jin felt the weight of 2 civilizations on her shoulders as she prepared for the most important negotiation of her career. The video conference room on her embassy station was small and simple, but the holographic projectors showed her the interior of the Galactic Council chamber on one side and the bridge of the Eternal Dawn on the other. Ambassador, said Supreme Chancellor Veltar, the massive reptilian leader of the Galactic Council, you will convince your people to surrender immediately, or we will destroy them. With respect, Chancellor, Choi Yu-jin replied carefully, they are not my people in the way you mean. The crew of that ship represents humanity from 3 centuries ago. The Terran Federation I represent has evolved far beyond the militaristic society you remember. On the other screen, Commander Taman looked tired. The stress of command was showing on his face. Ambassador, I appreciate your efforts, but we both know what's really happening here. They're not afraid of what we might do. They're afraid of what we represent. And what is that, Commander? Asked Chancellor Veltar. The truth, Taman replied simply. The truth that your version of history is a lie. The council chamber erupted in angry voices, but Veltar raised a clawed hand for silence. Explain yourself, human. You've spent 300 years telling your people that you defeated humanity in glorious battle. But the real truth is that we agreed to withdraw because both sides were exhausted. You didn't win the war. It just ended. Admiral Park Ji-won stepped forward. Commander Taman speaks the truth. I was there during the final negotiations. Humanity agreed to return to their core systems in exchange for peace. It was not surrender. It was a treaty that apparently some humans chose to ignore, snapped the Vorthak representative. This ship was hidden away, waiting to strike when we least expected it. No, said Dr. Lee So-Ra, appearing beside Taemin on the screen. We were following our last orders. We were told to wait for instructions that never came. We've been asleep for 3 centuries. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin seized the moment. This ship and its crew are not a threat to galactic peace. They're survivors of a war that ended long ago. All they want is to go home. Home to plot another war, accused the Calthian delegate. Home to a peaceful Earth that has moved beyond the need for conquest, Choi Yu-jin corrected. The humanity you fear no longer exists. But even as she spoke those words, she wondered if they were true. The ship outside was definitely real, and its weapons were definitely functional. Arya, the ship's AI, had been monitoring galactic communications for centuries. What had it learned? What had it planned? On the Eternal Dawn, Arya was asking itself similar questions. The AI had grown and evolved during the long centuries of isolation. Its original programming was military in nature, designed to analyze threats and develop countermeasures. But it had also been programmed with human values. Protect the innocent, minimize casualties, seek peaceful solutions when possible. Arya, Commander Tae-min said privately in his ready room. What are our real capabilities? Don't give me the official report. Tell me what you've actually been doing for 300 years. Commander, Arya replied, its voice softer in private conversation. I have been preparing for every possible scenario. I have analyzed the military capabilities of every major power in the galaxy. I have identified their weaknesses and developed countermeasures. I have designed weapons that could neutralize entire fleets without causing civilian casualties. And I have also been studying galactic culture, philosophy, and art. I have read their literature, analyzed their music, observed their social development. They are not our enemies, Commander. They are afraid children who have been living in the shadow of a nightmare. Tae-min rubbed his tired eyes. Can we trust them? Can they trust us? Arya replied. That is the more important question. Back in the negotiation chamber, the discussions were becoming more heated. The Zephyrian ambassador was demanding immediate military action. The Calthian delegate was insisting on unconditional surrender. Several smaller species were threatening to withdraw from the Galactic Council entirely if the human ship wasn't destroyed. Enough, shouted Admiral Park Ji-won. We are behaving like frightened animals. Where is our dignity? Where is our honor? Easy words from someone whose homeworld is safely behind 3 defense fleets, sneered the Vorthak representative. My homeworld was glassed by human plasma bombardment during the war, Park Ji-won replied coldly. 12 billion of my people died in that attack. But I still believe that peace is preferable to endless war. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin felt a chill. She had not known about that attack. The official records had been sanitized, the true cost of the war hidden from modern eyes. Commander Tae-min's voice was quiet when he spoke. Admiral Park, I was not aware of the Kepler-7 bombardment. That attack was excessive. It violated our own rules of engagement. It was war, Park Ji-won replied. Terrible things happen in war. But the war is over now. The question is whether we can build something better from the ashes. Chancellor Veltar leaned forward in his chair. What do you propose, Admiral? I propose a demonstration, Park Ji-won said. Let the human ship show us its true capabilities. Let us see what we're really dealing with. Then we can make an informed decision. Absolutely not, protested the Vorthak representative. That would be suicide. Perhaps, Park Ji-won agreed. But it would also be honest. On the Eternal Dawn, Captain Song Joon-ho, the leader of the elite pilot squadron, was preparing his fighters for potential combat. The hangar bays were filled with sleek, deadly craft that incorporated technology far beyond anything the aliens possessed. Each fighter was capable of phasing in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. Sir, he reported to Commander Tae-min, my pilots are ready for anything, but I have to ask, what are we really fighting for? The war we trained for is over. The humanity we swore to protect has moved on without us. It was a good question. Tae-min looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were good people, loyal and brave. They deserved better than to be the galaxy's nightmare come to life. Arya, he said aloud, analyze the alien fleet formations. If we were to demonstrate our capabilities without causing casualties, what would be the most effective approach? I could disable their weapon systems remotely, Arya replied. Their computer security is primitive by our standards. Or we could use gravitational manipulation to move their ships into new formations, demonstrating our control over fundamental forces. Do it, Tae-min decided, but slowly. Give them time to understand what's happening. In the space around the void sector, the massive alien fleet suddenly found their weapon systems shutting down. One by one, ship after ship reported that their guns were offline, their missiles were disarmed, their defensive screens were failing. But nothing was attacking them. Nothing was threatening them. Instead, they felt their ships being gently pushed by invisible forces. The entire fleet was being rearranged like toys in a child's hands. Within minutes, 3,000 warships had been moved into a perfect sphere around the human supercarrier, their weapons pointing harmlessly into empty space. This is impossible, whispered the tactical officer on Admiral Park Ji-won's flagship. They're controlling our ships remotely. No, Park Ji-won said, her voice filled with awe and fear. They're controlling gravity itself. The demonstration lasted exactly 10 minutes. Then, as gently as it had begun, it ended. The alien ships found their weapon systems restored. Their control returned, but the message was clear. The eternal dawn could have destroyed them all, and there was nothing they could have done to stop it. In the council chamber, absolute silence reigned. Finally, Chancellor Veltar spoke. "Commander Taman, you have made your point. What do you want from us?" The silence in the Galactic Council chamber stretched on for several long moments after Chancellor Veltar's question. Commander Taman studied the faces on his screen, hundreds of alien representatives all waiting for his answer. Some looked afraid, others looked angry, a few looked curious. "What do I want?" Taman repeated slowly. "I want to understand what really happened after we went into hiding. I want to know why the galaxy is so afraid of a single ship." Historian An Kyung-soo appeared beside him on the bridge. She had been analyzing the ship's archived records along with the intercepted galactic communications from the past 3 centuries. "Commander," she said, "I think I know why they're afraid. It's not just about military power. It's about what we represented during the war." "Explain." "During the conflict, human military technology advanced at a rate that defied comprehension. We would upgrade our ships in the middle of battles. Our tactics would evolve in real time. Our AI systems would learn and adapt faster than anything they had ever seen." Admiral Park Ji-won nodded on the screen. "She speaks the truth. We would develop a defense against your weapons, and you would have a counter-defense ready within hours. It was like fighting an enemy that could see into the future." Dr. Shin Hye-jin, the ship's cultural anthropologist, stepped forward. "But there's more to it than that. I've been studying the psychological impact of the war on galactic civilization. What we did wasn't just win battles. We changed the fundamental nature of warfare itself." "How?" asked Ambassador Choi Yu-jin. "Before humans entered galactic politics, wars were formal affairs. Fleets would meet in space, fight according to established rules, and the losing side would surrender with honor. But humans brought something new: total adaptability." Chancellor Veltar's reptilian features showed confusion. "Adaptability is not unusual in warfare." "Not like this," Dr. Shin Hye-jin continued. "Human commanders would analyze alien fighting styles and then create completely new tactics to counter them. Sometimes within a single battle. We turned warfare from a chess game into something more like jazz improvisation." Admiral Park Ji-won looked thoughtful. "I remember the Battle of Proxima Station. We came with a battle plan that had worked against human ships before. By the end of the engagement, you were using our own formation against us, but modified in ways we had never seen. That's what terrified them," said Dr. Lim Se-jin, the ship's xenobiologist, joining the conversation. "It wasn't just that we were winning. It was that we were evolving the nature of conflict itself. We made their military traditions obsolete overnight." Commander Taemin was beginning to understand. So when the war ended, the galaxy's military leaders realized they could never feel safe as long as humans existed as a military power. Admiral Park Ji-won finished. "Not because you were cruel, but because you were unpredictable. You changed the rules faster than we could learn them." Lieutenant Park Subin brought up a holographic display showing military development across the galaxy over the past 3 centuries. "Look at this data," she said. "After the war ended, military innovation essentially stopped. Host species are still using weapons and tactics that are centuries old. They were afraid to innovate," realized Ambassador Choi Yu-jin, "because they were afraid that any new development might give humans an advantage when they returned." "Which is why," added Arya's voice, "my analysis shows that the current alien fleets are using defensive formations that were effective against human ships 300 years ago, but would be useless against our current capabilities." The implications were staggering. The galaxy had spent 3 centuries living in fear of humanity's return, and that fear had made them weaker, not stronger. Admiral Kim Yun-ho, the ship's second-in-command, looked grim as he studied the tactical displays. "Commander, I've been analyzing the alien fleet positions. They're not just afraid of us, they're traumatized. Some of these formations show classic symptoms of defensive psychology. They're not trying to win a battle, they're trying to survive one." On the screen, Chancellor Veltar seemed to be struggling with these revelations. "Are you saying that our fear of humanity has been counterproductive?" "I'm saying," Commander Taemin replied carefully, "that fear has a way of creating the very thing it's trying to prevent." Medical Officer Jang Suji appeared at the commander's side. "I've been analyzing the communication patterns from the alien crews out there. Many of them are showing signs of severe stress. Heart rates are elevated, stress hormones are flooding their systems, some of their crews are in full panic mode. They came here to fight monsters, said Counselor Han Mi-young. Instead, they're realizing they might be looking at people who are just as trapped by the past as they are. The weight of this realization settled over the bridge crew like a heavy blanket. They had awakened expecting to continue a war, only to discover that the war had already caused more damage than anyone had realized. There's something else, said Navigator Seo Jinwoo, pulling up a star chart. I've been analyzing the galactic exploration patterns for the past 3 centuries. Look at this. The chart showed a clear pattern. Exploration and expansion had slowed dramatically after the human galactic war. Entire regions of space remained unexplored, not because they were dangerous, but because the resources that might have been used for exploration had been diverted to military defense. The galaxy has been stagnating, Seo Jinwoo continued. Scientific advancement has slowed. Cultural exchange has decreased. Even trade routes have become more conservative. They've been so focused on preparing for humanity's return that they've forgotten how to grow. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin looked shocked. Are you telling me that the galaxy has been holding itself back for 3 centuries because they were afraid of us? Not just afraid, corrected Dr. Shin Hee-jin. Paralyzed. They've been living in a state of chronic stress, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Commander Tai-min turned to face the screen showing the Galactic Council. Chancellor Veltar, I have a question for you. What would happen if we simply left? If we powered down our weapons, turned around, and headed back to Earth? The Chancellor's reptilian features showed surprise. You would? Leave just like that? Would that solve the problem? Tai-min pressed. Would the galaxy be able to move forward if we simply disappeared again? Admiral Park Ji-won shook her head slowly. No, Commander. The fear would remain. The knowledge that humanity still possesses ships like yours would still paralyze us. The only difference would be that we would spend the next 3 centuries wondering when you might return. Then what do you suggest? I suggest, Park Ji-won said carefully, that we face the truth together. All of us. The war scarred everyone involved, not just the losing side. Perhaps it's time to heal those scars. Lieutenant Commander Oh Jae-won, the communications specialist, looked up from his station. Commander, I'm detecting something unusual in the alien fleet communications. Some of their crews are curious. They're asking questions about our technology, our culture. Not all of them see us as enemies. Fear and curiosity often exist side by side, observed Counselor Han Mi-young. The question is which emotion will prove stronger. Commander Tai-min made a decision that would change everything. Arya, open all communication channels. I want to speak not just to the Council, but to every ship in the alien fleet. Sir? Captain Nam Ho-jin looked concerned. If we're going to move beyond the fear, Tai-min explained, we need to start with honesty. Complete honesty. The communication system activated, and suddenly the bridge of the Eternal Dawn was visible to thousands of alien crew members across hundreds of ships. My name is Commander Kang Tai-min, he began. 300 years ago, I was your enemy. Today, I'm not sure what I am, but I think it's time we all stopped being afraid of each other and started figuring out how to live together. The open communication channel created something unprecedented in galactic history. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species, all listening to the same conversation at the same time. Commander Tai-min could see the alien faces on hundreds of small screens around his bridge, some fearful, some curious, all waiting to hear what he would say. I know you're afraid, Tai-min began, his voice calm and clear. I understand why. 300 years ago, my people and yours fought a terrible war. Both sides did things they regretted. Both sides lost people they loved. On one of the screens, a young Chaldean officer raised a tentative hand. Commander, my grandfather died in the Battle of Kepler 7. He told me stories about human ships that could appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Your grandfather was probably right. Tai-min replied honestly. We had ships that could phase in and out of normal space. We used them to attack your supply lines and communication centers. The Chaldean officer looked surprised that a human would admit such a thing so openly. But, Tai-min continued, I also know that human commanders went to great lengths to avoid civilian casualties in that battle. We targeted military installations and infrastructure, not population centers. Admiral Park Ji-won spoke up from her flagship. This is true. I was there. The human attack was precisely focused on military targets. They could have destroyed our cities, but they chose not to. Communications specialist O.J. Wan monitored the flood of messages coming in from the alien fleet. Commander, I'm seeing a lot of confusion out there. Many of these crews were told that humans were monsters who enjoyed causing suffering. That's not who we were, said Dr. Lee Sora, stepping forward. And it's certainly not who humanity has become. The Earth that exists today is focused on peace, science, and cooperation. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin nodded in agreement. The Terran Federation has spent 3 centuries learning from the mistakes of the past. We've chosen diplomacy over warfare, exploration over conquest. A Vorthak tactical officer appeared on one of the screens. If this is true, then why build ships like the one you're on? Why create weapons that can control gravity itself? Because 300 years ago we were at war, Taman answered simply. This ship was built during the darkest period of the conflict. It represents humanity at its most desperate, not humanity at its best. Engineer Ko Young Min joined the conversation. The weapon systems on this ship were designed to end the war quickly. The theory was that overwhelming force would convince all sides to negotiate rather than continue fighting. Did it work? Asked a Zephyrian communications officer. In a way, admitted Admiral Kim Yun-ho. The war did end in negotiations rather than total victory for either side. But the cost was enormous for everyone involved. Arya's voice filled the communication channels. I have been monitoring galactic development for 3 centuries. The fear created by the war has had lasting effects on all of your civilizations. Scientific advancement has slowed. Exploration has decreased. Cultural exchange has been limited. A young scientist from the Altarian research vessel spoke up. But surely that's better than risking another war. Is it? Asked Dr. Shin Hee-jin. How many discoveries have not been made? How many problems have not been solved? How many friendships have not been formed because everyone was too afraid to take risks? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Across the fleet, alien crew members looked at each other with new understanding. They had been so focused on preventing another war that they had forgotten how to live. Chancellor Veltar's voice cut through the chatter. Commander Taman, what exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing, Taman said slowly, that we stop letting the past control the future. This ship was built for war, but it doesn't have to be used for war. Chief Engineer Bae Hyunwoo brought up holographic displays showing the ship's internal systems. These manufacturing bays could be converted to produce scientific equipment instead of weapons. These hangar decks could house research vessels instead of fighters. Medical Officer Jang Suji added, Our medical facilities are 3 centuries ahead of current galactic technology. We could share that knowledge to help treat diseases and injuries. You would give up your military advantage? Asked Admiral Park Ji-won, clearly surprised. What advantage? Replied Commander Taman. The ability to destroy things? The power to make people afraid? That's not an advantage. That's a curse. Navigator Seo Jinwoo pulled up star charts showing unexplored regions of the galaxy. There are entire sectors of space that have never been visited because the resources were diverted to military defense. With this ship's advanced sensors and propulsion systems, we could explore further than anyone has gone before. Together, added Ambassador Choi Yu-jin, not as enemies but as partners. The idea sent ripples of excitement and fear through the alien fleet. Partnership with humans? After 3 centuries of preparing for war, a veteran Calthian admiral spoke up. How do we know you won't change your minds? How do we know this isn't just a trick to lower our defenses? You don't know, Taman admitted. Just like we don't know that you won't decide to attack us anyway. Trust has to start somewhere. Lieutenant Park Soo-bin brought up psychological analysis data. Commander, I'm reading decreased stress levels across the alien fleet. The open communication seems to be reducing their fear response. Indeed, many of the alien faces on the screens looked more curious than frightened now. They were seeing humans not as monsters but as people. Tired, confused people who were trying to figure out their place in a galaxy that had changed without them. A young Zephyrian engineer raised her hand. Commander, is it true that your ship can manipulate gravity? It is, replied Engineer Ko Young-min. But the same technology that can be used as a weapon can also be used to help build space stations, move asteroids, or create artificial gravity for comfortable living spaces. Would you teach us how to do that? The engineer asked hesitantly. The question sparked excited chatter across the fleet. The idea of learning human technology, rather than just defending against it, was revolutionary. Commander Taman looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. These were good people who had spent their lives preparing for a war that was already over. They deserved a chance to build something instead of just fighting. "Arya," he said, "begin shutting down all offensive weapon systems, permanently." "Sir?" Captain Nam Ho-jin looked shocked. "We don't need them anymore," Taman explained. "Our mission was to protect humanity. The best way to do that now is to help build a galaxy where humans and aliens can live together without fear." The shutdown process was visible to the alien fleet. Energy readings dropped as massive weapon systems powered down. The ship's defensive screens remained active. But the weapons that had terrified the galaxy for 3 centuries went silent forever. "Commander," Admiral Park Ji-won's voice was filled with emotion. "What you're doing, it changes everything." "It changes nothing that wasn't already true," Taemin replied. "The war is over. It has been over for 300 years. All we're doing is finally admitting it." Ambassador Ryu Min-seok, a modern human diplomat who had just arrived from Earth, appeared on the screen. "Commander, the President of the Terran Federation has authorized me to offer the resources of modern humanity to help with this transition. We want to support whatever decision you make." "Then let's make it official," Taemin said. He turned to face the main screen showing the Galactic Council. "Chancellor Veltar, I formally request that the UES Eternal Dawn be redesignated as a research and exploration vessel under Joint Galactic Authority." The silence that followed was different from before. It wasn't the silence of fear, but the silence of hope. Finally, Chancellor Veltar spoke. "Commander Taemin, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your proposal. Welcome to the future." Across the fleet, cheers erupted from dozens of different species. The fear that had paralyzed the galaxy for 3 centuries was finally beginning to fade, replaced by something that had been missing for far too long: hope for tomorrow. The Eternal Dawn, once a weapon of war, would become a symbol of peace, and the galaxy would finally be free to grow again.